Go to TAPgiles.com to learn dreams, engage my services, and support the channel.
So when people try to have some sort of toggling mechanism in their game, maybe there's a light switch and they want it so the player can turn it on and off, they often use a switch gadget, which doesn't tend to work. So if I demonstrate kind of how they hook it up. So if we use X and wire that into the switch, and then I play time, then all that happens is while X is held, the switch is on. And while X is not held, the switch isn't on. And it just sends out the on or off values for it, as you can set in here. So it doesn't actually toggle anything. This is because people tend to think, oh, it's a switch, so it will toggle on and off like a switch does. But it's a switch for the creator, not for the player. So the creator can toggle it on and off like this, and they can use it to power some effect or some piece of logic. It's really good for debugging things, like you can plug this into like a timeline, which is your intro animation, and you can just turn it off really easily by clicking on that, and then it won't play and you can get into the game quicker for testing. So that's what it does. It's for the creator, not the player. As an aside, the switch is useful for converting a value to something different. So this is like an on-off, whether it's the button's down or not, which will affect the switch, and then you can give the on and off different values. So 0.2 and 0.8. So now, instead of being 1 and 0 because it's on and off, now it's 0.2 when I'm not holding it, and it's 0.8 when I am holding it. And you can give them any values you like, as long as on value is above off value or equal to. So the way you actually toggle, there's a few different ways. One is to use a selector, and the selector has many outputs. These are different channels, and only one of the outputs will be lit up and sending a signal, and then you can use that signal to power something, like your light or whatever. Now there's different ways of telling it which channel to use, and one is by wiring a signal into move to next output. So if I give this a load of channels and then go next, 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 so it just goes to the next channel. When it gets to the end and you go next, then it wraps around to the start. So now if I go next, it goes to A. So if this was only on 2, then the first time you press it, it will go to B. Second time you press it will go back to A because it wraps around, and so on. So this is like a toggling piece of logic. So if I had a light over here and something for it to light up, then you could wire B into the light, and then when you press X, now it's on, now it's off, now it's on, now it's off. And if you wanted it to start on, you could just wire A into it, because A is always the default channel. So now I can go off, on, off, on. The advantage of this is if you have two discrete states. So you have like one light that goes over on the right and one that is over on the left, like that. Then you could wire A into one light and B into the other light. And now you're toggling, but you're toggling between powering two different groups of logic, like that. Another way is to use a signal manipulator and just wire that in there. And in the custom remapper mode, down here you have these edge modes, which means when this input signal goes from down here to up here, when it gets to that point, then something happens, or when it gets to that point from above, then something happens. And it has the toggle output at on, so it will start as not sending a signal, and then when it receives a signal, then it will toggle down to being off, and so on. So if I start and plug this into the light, so now it starts off, and then I press X to toggle it on, and then X to toggle it off, and so on. So that's just a really easy way of getting an on-off toggle. The last way people use is using a counter. I don't tend to use this method myself, but it's a thing you can do. So you get a counter and you set the target value to 2. So the target value is like the maximum value, and as this goes up, you can see a preview of what's going on the front here. And when it gets to the top, it's full, and it sends out a counter full signal out here. And then to increase it, you wire into increase count. So now I'll press X and it goes up to 1, press X and it goes up to 2. When it gets to 2 and it's full, we want to wire it into reset count. So it goes to 1, and then on 2 it resets itself. And then you have to use the current count because there's no other signal. You want to know if it's just 1, basically. And then wire that into the light. And then play. And now it like toggles it on and off. So that's the thing you can do.
Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something interesting. Go to patreon.com/TAPgiles to learn something new every day.